Joe Biden's biographer, Franklin Foer, who wrote The Last Politician, which outlined the first 2 years of Joe Biden's administration, recently came out and said that Kamala Harris's loss is Joe Biden's new legacy. That is what he will be remembered for. And I think that is so depressing. Do you agree that that is going to be Joe Biden's legacy, that his successor lost to Donald Trump?
I think it's way more complicated than that.
Yes.
Honestly. Well, because the first thing that I thought about when you just read that quote to me is we were so excited and optimistic about Kamala Harris's chances after she became the nominee.
Yeah.
Right. And we were talking specifically about, since she has been elevated into the candidacy with like such a short time before the election, she's going to be kind of turbocharged. Like, she's going to get this special media attention. She's going to be viewed specially. I feel like she was put in like a really uniquely kind of good position to garner a lot of media attention if the campaign was run right. And there have been a lot of people discussing, and we have discussed Harris's campaign and the efficacy of it, basically. And you can go back and forth. But to me, this is much more about the weakness of Harris as a candidate than it is about Biden. And for that, we can also blame Biden, because he is the one who initially thrust her into the role because he endorsed her when he dropped out. Yeah. But it's hard for me to blame just Biden.
It's hard for me to blame Biden too. And it's tragic because there are so many legislative accomplishments of the Joe Biden administration that he should get credit for. And in a perfect world, in an objective world, the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan, and how that got us out of the Depression, those things would be his legacy in the perfect world.
Yep.
But we don't live in the perfect objective world. And a lot of those effects of those bills aren't even really seen yet by a lot of Americans. And when they start happening, when the bridges start getting built and the manufacturing plants open up, it's not going to be under Joe Biden. It's going to be under Donald Trump now.
Interesting.
And I don't think people are going to connect the dots that it was Joe Biden's infrastructure plan that built that bridge because Donald Trump was president when it was built.
All right. I think this is where when I think of legacy, I think of like a biography like The Last Politician. I think about long after Joe Biden has died, 50 years from now, when Joe Biden is a part of history rather than a part of current events. And to me, like, history will remember his leadership in passing everything that he's passed.
That's true. The historians who analyze this will tell the tale of Joe Biden's very successful 4 years that he was not thanked for.
I think so. And I think that a lot of what he passed legislatively with the IRA, with the CHIPS Act, with the infrastructure bill, that's going to be most difficult for the Republicans to peel back.
Yes.
Because at least the margin in the House, if the Republicans do win, which as we record this video, we don't know who's going to win the House, is not going to be that large. And we've already had Republican congressmen come out and say that they want to uphold the money that's been given out with these bills because it's helping their communities.
And a ton of Inflation Reduction Act investment money into these manufacturing plants for renewable energy, it's going into Georgia. It's going into Arizona. They don't want to give up those jobs.
Yeah, they're going into red states.
They're going into red states.
The majority of the money is going into red states.
Yes, the vast majority of the manufacturing investment money is going to red states, not blue states.
Yes.
And I think you are right that these Republican congressmen aren't going to want to repeal that legislation. And they're just going to be able to ride the coattails of that economic success.
Yeah.
But I think what you said is very accurate. There's two different ideas when I think we talk about a politician's legacy or anyone's legacy for that matter. It's the truth, what happened, right? How people write about it, the massive biographies that get written about Lyndon Johnson and all that. But then it's also the legacy of how you exist in the American public consciousness. And those are two different things. I don't think that the way that Lyndon Johnson is talked about in his biographies by Robert Caro is how he's remembered by the American population. He's remembered as the baby killer, the guy who bombed Vietnam to death.
Really?
Right? That's what he's remembered as.
See, this is where it's hard for me to put my finger on the pulse of, because I thought Lyndon Johnson would be remembered for the Civil Rights Act.
No. Well, no. He's more remembered for the baby killing.
Okay.
Yes. He's way more remembered for the baby killing than anything else.
Okay.
You know?
Huh.
And, you know, there's songs that say, you know, Lyndon, whatever it is, how many babies did you kill today? You know? So
you think the one thing that will last in the memory of people is Joe Biden as the president who enabled the return of Donald Trump?
Unfortunately, I think in the American consciousness, that is what will remain.
Okay.
Especially because, as we've discussed, Americans don't really care about policy.
No, that's true. But I also think, almost alluding to the short-sightedness of Americans as a general people, I feel like the fact that Biden wasn't the one running against him, and that Biden did drop out to do the thing to try to, like, kind of clean his hands of the effort to defeat Trump, I think that makes it less likely for the public consciousness to focus on him as the reason for Trump to return.
I get that. I think Joe Biden did make a mistake by waiting so long to drop out.
I suppose. And then this is where I also wanted to bring the conversation is, like, if Biden never announced that he would run for a second term, like, do you think a normal Democratic primary leads to a Democratic candidate who does beat Trump? Because I'm not so confident.
I'm not so confident either, actually. I mean, a part of me thinks that the Democrats needed this shellacking to wake up a little bit, which I think we'll make another video about.
Exactly.
That's coming up later this week. But I don't think that an open primary process in the year of 2020 was actually going to produce a candidate that was going to be capable of defeating Donald Trump anyway.
Sure.
I think that the greater economic situation of just the higher inflation over the last year or over during that 2-year time span, I think it was too much for any incumbent administration or any incumbent party to overcome.
Okay. I mean, I have my own thesis as well that is much more about vibes.
Yeah.
Much more. And I think one of the crosstabs, I mean, this is what we're going to get into in this other video.
Yeah.
But about the shift with Hispanic voters, I think kind of contributes to the idea that when you focus in and see that that's what changed the most, it doesn't make sense to me that inflation would be so, like, targeted to one group of people as far as changing how they vote. But anyway,
that's irrelevant. The point is that Joe Biden will now have to reckon with the fact that after 40 years of service, more than that, with 50 years of service to this country, many will just remember him as the one who failed. And that's slightly tragic for someone who I believe did do a lot of good for this country.
Yeah, for people who are, like, for liberals at least, who feel invested in things like the fight against climate change, in the building out of unions, Joe Biden has been, like, the ideal president after, like, comparably an Obama presidency that was incredibly disappointing in those areas.
Biden was the anti-Obama
in
a lot of ways. Biden was the opposite of what Obama tried to make the Democratic Party. He was pro-union. He was passing climate change bills. He was going after big corporations with his antitrust regulation through the DOJ.
He was Keynesian and not neoliberal. He finally pulled us out of the neoliberal muck. And that's, I don't know, for nerds like us, like, he'll be heroic for that.
Yeah, he will be. And we'll remember you for that, Joe Biden. We'll remember you for that, and we appreciate it, because you're going to set us up for the next Democratic primary, which will be a hell of a battle.